Life is full of dangers, and threats lurk around every corner. Our Stone Age ancestors knew this well, as they faced constant threats from predators looking for an easy meal. They additionally needed to defend their territory and resources from intruders, many of whom would have had hostile intentions. The competition between living things, and the possibility of encountering danger, goes far back into our evolutionary past, so much so that ancient mechanisms remain preserved in the human psyche, which allow us to deal with potential threats as quickly as possible. When one comes across a predator or an enemy, the body quickly releases hormones in preparation for the encounter, in what is known as the fight or flight response. Heart rate increases as blood quickly distributes energy and nutrients to the muscles, priming them for action. Breathing increases, and all sense perceptions are put on high alert. Within this instant, a quick decision needs to be made. Either flee in the hopes of escaping, or fight and put your own life in danger. This decision is so rapid that the conscious mind might not even be able to process the situation before the body decides to react. Psychological mechanisms that enable certain reactions during typical situations are known to Jungians as archetypes, and the archetype of the warrior, so popular in fiction, comes from the disposition to fight against perceived dangers. Another archetype also comes from this mechanism, namely the archetype of the weakling, which, although not as highly celebrated as the warrior, is arguably of equal importance, since you can't expect to win all fights. This is what an archetype is, a type of human behavior or thought which is pre-established in the psyche, and we can utilize these primitive drives to our benefit, but only if we channel them in the appropriate manner. It can be argued that war has been a fundamental aspect of the human story. In the wild, primate troops regularly conduct warfare with neighboring groups in order to secure access to food and water sources. Despite the dangers, if a troop is successfully able to displace another, it might be better positioned for survival, and so the risk might be worth it. Evolution tends to favor those with a certain amount of aggression, although too much aggression can have its downsides. The group that comes under attack may be impelled to defend their territory, because losing often has serious consequences, from which recovery may be impossible. This evolutionary arms race, which has been playing out for millions of years, has sharpened our instinct for battle, both when we go on the attack or when we defend ourselves. Being able to defend your homes from invaders could be the difference between life and death, whereas raiding and taking someone else's resources could put you and your kin at a great advantage. Those who didn't put up a fight likely died, giving the initiative to the best fighters, who could then propagate their warrior traits. This brutal evolutionary course, which still plays out today, is likely why war is so intrinsic to our species. You can gain a huge advantage in a successful attack, or hold on to what you have if you successfully defend. Human ingenuity has driven the development of various technologies and weapons meant to aid in combat. We built walls and watchtowers to prevent raids, while also developing newer and more deadly forms of weaponry and warfare. We also became increasingly organized and disciplined, and understood the importance of training and experience. The prevalence of war among humans likely explains why nearly every major pantheon of gods includes several gods representing war, including the Roman god Mars, the Hindu god Murugan, and the Celtic god Tutatis. Ancient Egypt had various gods who possessed the warrior aspect, as did the ancient Greeks. Unlike today, many early civilizations glorified war, as success in battle was seen as a sign of valor, honor, courage, and favor with the gods. The strength and success of the military is a sign of the strength of the city or the state, and many massive empires, from the Assyrians to the Mongols, grew in size through brutal military conquests. The spoils of war were also very valuable, as winning a battle could result in the capture of livestock, slaves, gold, and other commodities. On the other hand, losing battles could degrade the state's military strength, and make it susceptible to external threats. The importance of the warrior strength led to the creation of complex military hierarchies, and greater organization of the army. Distinct warrior castes, such as the Persian immortals, who formed the imperial guard of the Achaemenid Empire, the Japanese samurai, who were charged with the defense of the land, or the Spartans of ancient Greece, whose entire culture was built around military proficiency, developed fearsome reputations as hardened soldiers, trained exclusively for combat. These soldiers were taught to be brave when confronting danger, and not to act irrationally or out of emotion, but to think clearly in threatening situations, relying on their training and the orders of their superiors. One common misconception about the warrior archetype is that it primarily operates in men. While it is true that the vast majority of soldiers in history have been men, the archetype operates with equal potency in women, and some cultures believed femininity to be an important aspect of the warrior archetype. Many Egyptian war deities are goddesses, since it was thought that the primal nature of the instincts strengthened a warrior's resolve. The same is true of various Hindu war goddesses, whose savage nature can be seen in their iconography. In ancient Greece, the war god Ares was associated with brute combat and winning through strength of arms, while the goddess Athena, in her warrior aspect, was associated with strategic thinking and planning. Archetypes exist in all of us, and find manifestation in various circumstances when they are needed. We have relied on the warrior archetype to help us defend our loved ones and ourselves from various threats, but it can also manifest in evil form, where sadists enjoy inflicting harm on others. This has sometimes been described as the shadow aspect of the warrior archetype, where the fight for a noble cause is abandoned, and one instead indulges in violence, enjoying unnecessary savagery and killing out of bloodlust. We often assume that we do not possess the capacity to commit great acts of evil, but the desire to dominate and harm others is something many of us carry unconsciously. In fact, in times of peace, it may be the warrior archetype within which leads to warmongering and a craving for battle. However, it is important to also realize that aggression should not be viewed as inherently evil, as our aggression can save our lives when we need to defend ourselves, or when we need to act bravely in order to help others and do the right thing. While aggression can be used for destructive purposes, it can be used in the service of a noble cause. Although the warrior archetype is geared towards our urge to fight, this energy can be channeled and redirected in order to empower us in other life situations. This is especially true today, as war has become less common than it was in the past, while the warrior archetype within still persists. The warrior archetype manifests as our desire for self-assertion and agency. It is the drive and determination we feel when we refuse to leave our fate to destiny and decide to take control of our lives in the hopes of producing a beneficial outcome. This often involves conquering our own inner demons, while at the same time learning to endure whatever challenges life may throw at us. Just as it takes courage and determination to win a fight, the bravery that manifests through the warrior archetype can be utilized to overcome the obstacles we may face. Courage is needed, not just in battle, but in everyday situations. Whenever we come across a situation where we feel anxiety, such as when you need to speak in front of a crowd, or when you are trying to speak with your crush, it is easy to let anxiety win, and to flee from the supposed danger. It is the warrior archetype within that impels us to be courageous nonetheless, and to put your own needs and desires first, and to face life with bravery. We are too often satisfied by remaining within our comfort zones, preferring what is safe and familiar, but this approach may cause us to live life inadequately, and miss opportunities for new experiences. This approach may also lead us into allowing other people to decide our fates, rather than seizing control of our own destinies. The drive to self-assertion and self-determination characterizes the warrior archetype, as it allows us to put our own needs and desires forward, while supplying us with the drive we need to seize the moment. Aggression and determination, traits often associated with battle, can be utilized to harden your competitiveness in order to pursue desirable goals. Highly competitive people can manipulate this inner drive and willpower to chase their passions in order to achieve remarkable things. However, sheer will alone is often inadequate, as the warrior needs to be disciplined and develop his skills through deliberate practice. Training and discipline help to fortify the mind and body, and prepare for whatever situations one may face. There are times, however, where despite your efforts, your determination to succeed against the obstacles blocking your path may falter, and your courage may be depleted. But many times, our warrior drive will continue to push us forward through discouragement and adversity. The warrior archetype within each of us can be used to aid ourselves, but it can and should be used to help those who need our help. Warriors of ancient times were often charged with defending the innocent and those who could not defend themselves. This included the defense against tyranny and injustice, and it often takes courage to stand up for what you believe in and to do the right thing. It is much easier to be silent and to avoid confrontation when faced with injustice, but this passive approach has, in the past, allowed evil to manifest, and before anybody decided to act, it was too late. Hence, this is why we need to have the courage to speak out against what we perceive to be wrong, and to assert the legitimacy of our values. Fighting isn't always the only option, and there are usually more diplomatic ways to resolve conflicts. But each of us will face a moment when it becomes necessary to be assertive rather than passive. The warrior's capacity for aggression may be channeled towards the goal of preservation rather than destruction, and in these moments, we should be thankful for the warrior archetype within each of us.